Hi, Christian Chase here with Chase Real Estate. I want to explain the process of valuating a real estate deal. Now you can easily over-engineer the process and go through and have 100 Excel spreadsheets that have a million different numbers. But what I want to do is break it down so you can value a deal very quickly. And it's something that you can do as you're walking through a home. And I call it the 4 C's and an R. And so I'm going to take you through the process. I go out to a foreclosure property and I want to value, is this really a good deal or not? So the first thing I want to know is what can I purchase that property for? So in this case, it's a home in Naperville and I can buy it for $100,000. The property, after it's all fixed up, cleaned up, and back on market, it's valued at $150,000. So right now I know that I'm working with a $50,000 spread on this house, but I have some expenses, and that's where that 4 C's and an R come into play. The first C is closing cost. When I buy the property. So closing costs when you're purchasing a property, that could be attorney, title, additional insurance, title insurance on the property. So you do have some costs involved when you're purchasing a property that's at $100,000 on average. That's going to cost you around $3,500 in closing costs. So then what our next cost is another closing cost. On the sale of the property. So when we go to resell the property, again, we have attorney, title, those expenses to resell the home. And on our average property that we would be selling at $150,000 would be around $2,500 in cost. So we've got our first C, our second C, both of those being closing costs. The next cost that we have, our next C, is a carrying cost. And the carrying cost includes principal, interest, taxes, insurance, utilities, HOAs. So that could be HOA, principal, interest, taxes, insurance. And so those costs we need to factor in, and we want to multiply that by 5 months. On average, we're going to own a property for 4 to 5 months. I would always be budgeting for a total of 5 months of carry. And on a $100,000 property, adding all those costs together, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, utility costs, that's going to be around $1,000 a month. So if I have 5 months of carrying costs, I'm going to have $5,000 total in carry cost expenses. So that's our third C. Our fourth C is commission. And that's when we go ahead and we relist the property on the market and we're selling the property out and another agent's involved in the transaction. We always want to be budgeting for a commission of 3%. So that's your worst case scenario and the most likely scenario of 3%. So we have our commission. And that's at 3%. And on commission at 3% on $150,000 is, just to use it easy, is $4,600 is our commission on that $150,000 sale. Our last part, so we've got our 4 C's, our last part is the rehab part of the process. So we put our R down here at the bottom, and that's rehab. And the rehab is going to vary from property to property. One property could be $8,000, another one could be $15,000, and another one could be $25,000. But just for simple purposes, we're going to say that the home here that we're buying in Naperville, we have $15,000 in rehab. So what I want to do is, I know my spread is $50,000. I bought the house for $100, it's worth $150. I have closing costs when I buy the property of $3,500. I have closing costs on the sale of the property of $2,500. I have carrying costs of $5,000, commissions of $4,600 when I go to resell the house, and my rehab of $15,000. Now, what I need to do is add all those numbers together and come together, and then I would be able to have what my actual expenses are on this particular property. So if I was to add that all together, I would come out with around $30,000 in expenses. So if I'm working with a $50,000 spread and I have $30,000 in expenses, my profit would be approximately $20,000 on a house. So it's just a simple way when you're looking at an investment property and you're walking through the house and you're trying to make a quick decision, which we need to do on these homes, is to just have a simple formula that you can use. And the one that I've used for years has always been the 4 C's and an R. Closing costs when I buy it, closing costs when I sell it, carrying costs while I own the property, commissions when I go to resell the house, and then my rehab cost. I add all of those together, and it comes up with what my profit would be when I subtract that from my $150,000 sale price to what I purchased the property for. So again, you can really over-engineer this stuff by having a million Excel spreadsheets, and you absolutely do need detailed breakouts for this when you're turning everything into your accountant. But for purposes of purchasing a property and trying to make a quick valuation on that house, is this a good deal? Is it a bad deal? This is just a simple way to do it. So just a little tip that I wanted to pass along to our investors on making decisions on properties. Thanks for watching.